Hi folks, welcome to Unicorn Light Tarot. So glad you can join us today. So I thought we would do a little reading based on if any of you are not surrounded by, but have ghosts around you, and if you do, what messages they have for you. Now, this is not to freak anybody out. I am definitely one of those people that is very brave when they're watching the horror movie, but afterwards has all the lights on and asks my boyfriend to go into the kitchen with me afterwards. So this is definitely not supposed to freak anybody out. But I also thought that on occasion I've definitely been the sort of person, well, I've definitely been the person that's been in the house and nobody's been in the house, and all of a sudden I've heard my name very, very clearly as if somebody is standing right next to me, and there's literally, can't speak, literally nobody anywhere near me. So I thought for other people like me out there who might be interested to see if there are any spirits out there, and if so, if there are messages for you, then this reading will be for you. And again, what better time to do it than October month coming into Halloween. So, as usual, we have 3 piles. I'm going to keep this reading very simple today. So just pile 1, 2, and 3 as usual. Please take your time and sit with your intuition to see which pile is resonating with you. If you need to go ahead and pause the video and take some extra time to choose your pile, please go ahead and do that. The timestamps will be underneath in the comment section as usual. And I am very excited today to use the Halloween Tarot deck, which of course is the right tarot deck to use under these circumstances. No other tarot deck to use but the Halloween Tarot. So we'll be using that today. And if we need some clarity cards too, and to break up some of the energy, I also have this Fairy Oracle deck too, which I thought would be a nice balance. So let's go ahead and see if there are any messages for you. I'm going to put aside... Oh! Our skeletons just fell over, but I think they're okay. All right, so pile 1. Let's see if there are any ghosts around you, and if there are, if there's any messages for you. All right. Okay. So we have the 5 of Bats. Here, the 9 of Ghosts, which is the 9 of Cups. It's one of my favorite cards. It's actually seen as the wish card in some tarot decks. The Hermit, perfect. And then the King of Bats. So the first message I'm getting is that, and again, this is a general reading, so please take what you will. Whatever resonates and whatever doesn't, just let it go. But I feel like for some of you, the first message I'm getting is that you like the idea that spirits are around beyond deceased family members and friends and associates and so far. And sometimes you are brave about it and sometimes you are not. I can see that on occasion you may have even dabbled with the idea of speaking to or getting in touch with spirits. Maybe some of you have played the Ouija board. There's a lot of people that are for it, a lot of people who are against it. I personally don't play it because I've had some bad situations happen, but I'm not against anybody who plays it if you know how to do it safely. And there are some ways to ensure to be safe about it, just not for me. But I feel like you may have dabbled or at least been in the room, been comfortable enough to be in the room perhaps when folks are experimenting with communicating with the other world. I do feel for most of you who picked pile 1, there is a sense that you believe that there are spirits, you believe in the idea of ghosts, and that you're open to the idea of it, at least. And for some of you, I feel like it's necessary for you to definitely believe in them because of loved ones who have passed over, which of course a lot of us feel. But I feel as though there are, for some of you, there's definitely this idea of wanting to know more and really understanding that this world is just only one dimension, two dimensions, three dimensions, and that there are so many other worlds out there and so much for us to learn. And for some of you, I do feel like with the Hermit card here too, that for some of you, I feel as though there is a way to approach that world and you don't go willy-nilly into that. You would do a little bit of research before you actually go too far into that world. And I think for me, what I'm getting, the message that I'm getting is that you do have respect, for some of you, profound respect for the dead and who they are. And I feel like you're not the sort of person that would go into a graveyard and disrespect anybody or anyone who had once lived, whereas some people really don't care about that sort of thing, but I feel like you would. So I feel as though there are definitely spirits around you. I feel as though you understand that implicitly. You've always understood that. And I feel like for some of you, may have even experienced, maybe not full-on apparitions, but has certainly seen like orbs or gotten a sense of spirits before and thought to yourself, okay, that's enough. I need to go now. And I think it's perfectly reasonable to be trepidatious walking into a situation where two different worlds are meeting each other. But even though I feel like with the 5 here, you're blindfolded, but you are surrounded by it, and there is a part of you that really appreciates, first of all, that they're around in some ways, as long as they leave you alone, but also is fascinated with the idea of them. And again, that's perfectly normal. But I think there's definitely a part of you, maybe a subconscious part of you, but maybe it's fully conscious, who knows, but there is a part of you that's really excited about the idea of the supernatural. You might even watch supernatural movies and really love that genre. I also feel like there's a side of you that is absolutely willing to believe that these spirits absolutely do exist. And I think with that, there is an understanding that with good, there's also evil. And it's obviously the dark part of it, the evil part of it that might frighten you, which of course is perfectly reasonable. So let's see if there are any messages for you at this time. So I keep getting the image of ghost hunters. I don't know if you want to become ghost hunters or if you're fascinated with the idea of it, but want to keep yourself a little bit further back, so you may watch ghost hunter shows. I know there's a couple of really popular ones on YouTube, and of course on Discovery Channel and whatnot, and they've been going for quite a while, so they must be very popular. But I think for you, the message is that you are grounded enough and secure enough to investigate further on your own and come up with your own evidence. I also think that, again, this is a general reading, but for some of you out there, you obsessed with the idea of evidence. Like, you might be open to the idea, but it's really important for you to gather the information on your own terms, which again, I totally respect. So maybe the message of the ghost hunting is for you to get out there and actually do something and investigate something, it really could be just somewhere in your area or neighborhood, or not necessarily too far out from where you live. So you have to spend too much energy figuring out where you're going to go. Like, it's not, I don't necessarily see you going, oh, I'm going to go to the Stanley Hotel, or coming up with something, a really huge quest for going to find the spirits, but doing it locally, getting a couple friends with a camera, maybe that's something that you would be interested in doing. I think that's, for some of you, that could be really, really beneficial. Who knows what you will find. If you're just looking for proof, and I think some of you are on your own terms, as I already said, I think you will probably find it. I think you are open enough and yet grounded enough to accept that there might be something out there, but scientific enough to kind of move it forward on your own terms. So that's the first message. Let's see if there's any other messages. I'm also going to, oops, skeletons are going again. This is such a different deck to go ahead and use with this Halloween deck, but I think it's kind of funny. So with the Hermit card, I'm also feeling, though, that you don't necessarily put yourself out there as a ghost enthusiast, if some of you indeed are. You keep all of this very much to yourself. And if you did go ghost hunting, it would be with a very, very small group of friends that you know and trust, which is probably the best way to do it. And we have discipline, stewardship, and give and receive. So I feel like you are the sort of person who would benefit from working at this idea of ghosts being in the world from a scientific or a disciplined background, but you would be willing to see. Maybe you're coming at it from a place of not really believing. But I do feel like at least some of you have had some sort of experience, and maybe that's been in the back part of your mind, but now you're sort of ready to go out there and see if there's anything else in the world. I think you're very curious about worlds beyond your own, or the way that you perceive worlds. So I think that's something that could be really interesting for you. So any last messages besides you guys going out and being ghost hunters? Let's see. No, I'm not receiving anything else. So for pile oneers out there, if you're thinking about doing anything ghost huntery, please let us know in the comments below. That would be quite amazing. I would love to hear from you guys. Hopefully you found fun in this, and none of this freaked you out, and you take it as a light note. But please let me know if any of this in pile 1 resonated. I would love to hear from you. Thank you for being here, and happy and merry Halloween to all. All right, pile 2ers. So again, what we're doing here today is a sort of a fun look at, not taking it too seriously, but whether spirits are around you and if there are any messages for you from the other world. So pile 2, we have 4 pumpkins. So justice. Okay, Queen of Pumpkins. And 6 of Ghosts. So pumpkins are pentacles in our Halloween deck here. So for pile 2, I'm getting a very, very different feeling from pile 1, which pile 1 was more scientific, kind of curious, inquisitive. For pile 2, the first thing I felt was like family or friends passing over. So and again, this is a general reading, so please take what resonates and let go of what doesn't. But I definitely feel that there is a more personal connection with the other side. Some of you may have been in touch with grandmothers or had very significant sort of ghostly encounters with family members. I'm definitely getting grandfathers for some of you, grandmothers. And I have heard of this happening. This has never happened to me, but where they come and visit you on the night of the death or the day after or a couple days afterwards. So I feel as though you might have had a direct connection with the dead. I definitely do feel as though there is a family connection or there is a personal connection. So your connection to the spirit world is very personal and somewhat emotional. So I don't feel as though for most of you, what I'm getting for the general idea of pile 2, I don't feel like any of you for the most part really doubt that there is another world or that there is a spirit world. And I do feel as though most of you, as I've already said, have encountered it in a sort of a familiar way, a family way, and I've sort of really loved that. I feel like the people that have passed on, that have come back and visited you, have been very careful not to freak you out or to make you feel, to make sure that you feel comfortable beforehand. Maybe they brought you messages, specific messages, mainly the message that they're okay and that you will be okay. I feel like for some of you, you may have asked for help for specific family members who have passed on, and then seen that help integrate into your life in a very, very specific way, and have no doubt whatsoever that your grandmother or your mother or your grandfather or whoever it is, for some of you it's a friend that was taken. For some of you, I also see lives that have been taken, and a lot of pain around some of these deaths, but to know that they're okay brings you peace of mind. So this is a very loving pile. This is very loving energy that I'm feeling right now. Very guided. I feel like pile 2 is you're very guided from the other side. You're very guided from the spirit realm. And for most of you, I would say, because the guidance is so unbelievably strong, I can't believe that you don't realize this. I would be very shocked and surprised if any of you did not realize that this guidance is integrated into your life in a really profound and beautiful way. I feel like you really, like I said, you've asked for help and you've received it in such beautiful, intangible, palpable ways in your lifetime, where you've asked for something and then a new job has popped up, and you've asked for an ending of something, and it's happened so quickly and seamlessly. So I feel like you definitely have loved ones or people who have passed on that were, as I would say, in your camp when they were alive, but they've been working to systematically clear out everything from your life that isn't working, and they really are so much of a guidance to you. I would say that in some situations, and the message that I'm getting is that for some of you, they really can do so much more for you. For some of you, the message I'm getting is that they can move mountains for you now that they're on the other side in ways that they weren't able to do when they were in physical form. So I feel like the guidance and the beauty that you are receiving from the other side is really profound. And I'm also getting that, and this is, from my part, to be respectful, that the word that they don't like, they don't mind the word spirits, but they don't like the word ghost. So we're not even going to refer to them. So we're not even referring to them as ghosts, even though this says 6 of ghosts. They know that's not what it is. So this is definitely a family, friend oriented message of hope, reiterating that you are completely guided and protected from the other side. And I also feel like some of you are so connected with your family members or let's just say loved ones who have passed over, that you ask them questions and you ask for guidance. So the one thing that I'm getting is that there's so many of you, I feel like, that have asked for guidance, that some of you are getting a no answer and some of you are getting a yes answer. So to clarify, because, that's sort of a 50-50, that doesn't really help. For some of you who have asked recently for some guidance, and it's a a no or a yes answer, the message is that the answer is yes. And for some of you, it's to listen to your intuition. You already know. And it almost sounds like a cop-out, but it really isn't. I really got flooded in that sort of 1 minute when I asked, when I could see so many people asking for guidance. So do listen, always listen to your intuition, of course, but for some of you, there is a profound yes. And I feel like for Pal Tours, the people that are listening, that are resonating with this, the people who have asked for guidance recently from beyond the world that we know and understand will resonate with the answer yes. So the answer yes is resonating far more than the answer no. But for some of you, you are being asked to look within and go with your intuition. So that's what I'm getting there. So again, we are just going to clarify, or at least see if there's any more messages. There's so much love in this pile and so much authority. There's so much beauty and there's so much protection. There really is. This is a very, very different feeling. This is such a great feeling. It's so different from Pile 1. Not that Pile 1 was bad or good. None of these are bad or good, but it's just so profoundly different. The minute I put down Pile 2, it's just so, the energy is so different. Okay, so the last message that I'm getting, and again, so this is a little bit more specific, but again, what I'm getting is that and again, we're going to, loved ones who have passed over are really very active in your life. They really are integrated into your life, and they're helping you make the right choices, and they're keeping you focused and keeping your vision clear. So the one message that I am getting, and again, these are loved ones who are passed over, is to achieve what you want quicker than you've been achieving, because I feel like some of you are really, I got a couple of grandmothers here, very, very impatient, is to focus completely and totally on what you do want and stop focusing on what could go wrong. So that's a very specific message, I think, for some of you. And again, for people who this resonates with, it'll resonate right for you and you'll know who you are. I do feel like there are a lot of people who have asked for guidance from their loved ones who have passed over about love issues. When will love be coming into their lives? And the one message that I'm getting is, and of course for every single person, we can't go through and say what's going to happen this time, going to happen this time. And time is relative and man-made too. It's actually non-linear in real life. So it's difficult to predict in no uncertain terms, but they are also helping you. For those who have asked for love, they're helping you again focus on self-love and putting that love out there and getting you ready for significant love in your life. And they are providing that love until the actual love comes into your life. But you do have that love. But what they're saying is that they are, and for some of you, what I'm saying is that what I have said before, they have a lot of power on the other side. And for some of you, they can actually sort of choose for you and move the right person into your life. So they are doing literally moving heaven and earth to protect and make sure that you have the right circumstances in your life. But what you can be doing is to have faith, concentrate on self-love. And again, I'm getting very, very strongly, focus and vision is so important. You have to focus and only visualize what you want. Stop trying to figure out what's going to go wrong and try to protect yourself, because you're slowing down the energy by doing that. Stop figuring out what's going to go wrong. Like I said, focus on all the positive, where you want to be, not where you are, or any of the negative stuff. So focus on the positive, only on what you want, not what you think can happen. And they are working heaven on earth to make sure that you have everything in your power to have the best life that you can possibly have. So that is an incredible reading there for a powerhouse of spirituality, you Pal Oneers. So that is incredible. So if any of you resonated with this, please do let me know. in the comments below. I would especially love to hear from you guys, because that was such a beautiful and kind of very different energy from pile 1. So I'd love to hear what you think. So last but never least, we have pile 3. And again, we are seeing if there's any spirits from pile 2. Spirits, not ghosts. We're calling them spirits. Wonderful people who have passed over. If there's any spirit energy around you, and if so, if there are any messages. So again, please don't be freaked out. This is just in the spirit of Halloween. Please take what resonates. This is a general reading, and if it doesn't resonate or some of it doesn't, just let it go. So we have the 2 of Imps. So we've got the 10 of Bats. So we've got wands here. Interesting. Okay. So, let's see what we have here. So I'm going to do something a little bit different than I've done with the other piles. I'm actually going to get, I use these cards right at the end on the pile 1 and 2, but I'm actually going to take these a little bit sooner, because I'm getting a little muddled insofar as I feel like for pile 3, there are folks who do believe and folks who don't. Let's do history. There are people who have heard of it, heard of the idea of spirits, but, you know, aren't on either camp. These are specific messages. Let's see what we have here. I feel like for you guys, it's sort of ghosts are something that's happened to other people for most of you, or ghost experiences. I feel like you've had experiences with dreams, I feel like, where you have questioned whether some of it is of supernatural value, not of this world. Dreams definitely have that kind of understanding to them anyway. But I feel like, yeah, I'm not getting the energy of either or necessarily. I feel like most of you are open to the idea of it. I think some of you might have a little bit of fear around trying to definitively figure out whether there are spirits out there, which is totally understandable and quite responsible, probably. I feel like for some of you, you grew up with some of the old, like, or you've been in and around horror movies growing up, like vampire movies, maybe the old sort of vampire movies. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I grew up in London. I lived in Ireland, in Dublin, but so my accent's kind of all over the place. But growing up, we used to have Hammer House of Horror. I think you can get them on YouTube, because they're probably not even copywritten. They're so old. But I feel like that kind of old, almost sort of campy kind of horror movies, I kind of feel like, and they usually had like slightly paranormal, but for the most part, they had sort of a vampire theme. I feel like some of you may have grown up with those, or in the 80s or whatever. Maybe not grown up in the 80s, but those kind of movies where they weren't really scary per se, but they were sort of entertaining. So I feel like being in and around those kinds of movies are perfectly reasonable to you. I don't think you're discrediting necessarily that there are spirits in and around, but I don't know if I think you're happy with the idea of not really knowing. But I think for some of you, and again, this is a general reading, you might be sort of interested, but I feel like there's a very sort of childlike, innocent energy around people who have picked pile 3, which I think is really beautiful. I think you're more at home with sort of the fairy realm, that sort of thing. I think that it's not that you're easily offended or anything like that, far from it necessarily, but I think that you have a sort of like a very go with the flow kind of open sweetness to you, and you wouldn't necessarily want to go that far into the spirit world necessarily, which again is perfectly reasonable. So, but I think there's definitely a curiosity to you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come here and spent some time with us. And I think that what I'm getting is that you're more in line with people who assert themselves within the spiritual realm. So you would happily believe somebody who says that they've had an encounter or that it does exist. You have no problems with that. I think maybe when you were a child too, you may have come into contact or maybe had a few experiences that I keep seeing that you have a question mark underneath it. So you certainly haven't put it in the camp of definitively this is I had a ghostly encounter, but it's definitely a question mark for you. I think you're perfectly happy with that question mark being there. I think that you are definitely inquisitive, but I think there is a part of you that believes that if you went any further into it, that you might find out more than you want to, or maybe get yourself involved in a situation that you may not want to deal with or be able to handle. And again, that's your truth. I don't necessarily see that happening ever in your life, but I think that what I'm getting is that you're a happy and innocent and beautiful observer of all of this, neither yay or nay, but happy to listen to people's experiences. I think for some of you, you might even like the idea of freaking yourself out or listening to podcasts late at night with this sort of thing, but maybe you'll do it with, people in the house or knowing that there's somebody downstairs. So I think you're open to the idea of it, and I think that you're happy with it remaining an idea. And not getting too tangible, which is perfectly reasonable. I think that you have a sort of very romantic streak, a really beautiful sort of romantic streak. So for you, reading literature that again wouldn't necessarily scare you per se, but borders on the sort of supernatural might interest you, as long as it's, sort of, I don't know, Edgar Allan Poe. I mean, I think some people see him as a very romantic writer. I think there was something really obviously horrific about what he wrote about. It's very, very dark. For any of you who is into astrology, he was a Scorpio rising, and he's a very Scorpio rising writer, and we'll leave it at that. But I feel as though that's the way that you dabble in the other world, and that is totally fine with you. But I think there is some kind of fascination. But I see the fascination with you, like I said, being the beautiful observer, sitting there and watching and watching other people get involved and doing all of that, which I think is, again, perfectly reasonable and a very safe and beautiful thing to do. I think you have your life and you have your thoughts, and you're very busy with this lifetime. And working with, the sort of real world. That's not to say that you're too much of a too pragmatic. I do see you have a very sort of flowy, beautiful, romantic side to you too. Big daydreamers, big daydreamers. And I think that's probably another reason why you want to be on the outskirts, because I feel like your imagination can really set fire to things in your mind. And you can take a situation like, a ghostly situation, like with pile one, it was like, are you going to go out and ghost hunt and take it to the next level in such a way that you freak yourself out, but nothing's really happened. So I feel like you really know yourself, and that's why you don't go looking for any of this stuff, which is perfectly reasonable. And we do have this on the side. So the message that I'm getting here is that, the main message that I'm getting is that you are definitely fine with trying to figure out this life without complicating your life and getting involved in another kind of life while you're trying to live this life, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to pull one more. So the one thing that I'm getting, I feel like the one thing that I'm getting is that you're not going to go looking for it, but if a situation should come to your doorstep, as it were, then you would be willing to stay on the sidelines, but you would, again, willing to be an observer, but you're certainly not the sort of person that would run away necessarily from it. But I do feel like you are grounded into this world and the worlds that you move upon. I do see a lot of you being committed to a spiritual path, and definitely committed to meditation and all of the good things that we do to better ourselves, and adding the spirit realm in a very specific way is not a direction that you're necessarily that interested in. So I don't see a lot of you as mediums per se, but I feel like you would be in and around a lot of people who do have those gifts, and you would accept them and definitely feel as though they're telling the truth. I mean, there's no reason why you would doubt anybody who has any of those attributes, but it's nothing that you're interested necessarily in pursuing. Just for a final message that I'm getting, for some of you, for a percentage of you, you do have some of these gifts. The medium, I just got this right at the end. You do actually have the medium gift, and you are somewhat aware of it, and you're wondering whether you need to pursue it. Maybe there's an aspect of your life that it's leaking into, and you're wondering whether you need to train and be mediums. You need to follow your heart and soul for that. No one needs to develop that if they don't want to. I myself am a medium, and I do it on occasion, but there are ways to train and open yourself up to energies of working with guides without having to physically work with spirits or ghosts or people who have passed on. So for people who are a little bit curious about understanding that they do have these gifts, and whether, maybe you're a little bit nervous, again, on the sideline, the observer looking in, it's really up to you whether you want to develop them. If you do have these gifts of mediumship, there's other ways to develop those gifts without you having to physically work with people who have passed over. I find that very difficult and draining sometimes, but I do work with other guides, and that's certainly something that you can do. And it doesn't mean that you are in any way shaping or turning off your gift. All it means is that you're honing in a very specific way and learning how to redirect or direct your gifts in the way that you want. So for any of you who are thinking about this, that just came to mind very, very clearly at the end, not as an afterthought, but it did come in. It was a slightly different energy. So I hope that does clarify that for you. And if any of this resonated with you, Pile 3, please do let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. And for everybody who joined us today for a little bit of wicked Halloween fun for the month of October, thank you so much for being you. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed yourself and have a safe, beautiful evening. You look after yourself and each other. Take care. Bye-bye.